So I'm currently on holiday in Florida, although by the time this video is out I won't be, because there's no way I'm able to upload this video on the hotel's 1 megabit up connection. But I'm on holiday and I wanted to get some sort of action camera for filming things like on the theme park rides and water slides and stuff. However, I don't do enough action stuff to sort of warrant the cost of a GoPro. It's just far too expensive. So I wanted to be able to get something relatively cheap and most importantly in a store, because I needed to be able to pick it up while I'm here rather than getting it delivered, as I didn't actually think to buy it before I came. So I was digging around and came across this, which is called the Activeon CX. This actually looks pretty good. It retails for around $100 normally. However, I found this on sale in Kmart and Walmart for $60, and I was able to actually get Target to price match that. So I got this in Target, but got it for the $60, which for it seems pretty good. It's a fairly generic-y action cam, but it does seem to be a proper brand, and they do claim to manufacture it themselves rather than just sort of importing Chinese ones and rebranding them. So it just looks quite good. So I picked that up along with a cheapy 32GB micro SD card. It takes micro SD, whereas all the cards I have are full-size SD. So got that, and we'll just sort of take it out and see what you get. So for $60, it actually seems quite good, because that's about the same price when you do the currency conversion as the sort of generic ones you can buy on eBay. So getting that in a store seems pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that price. The $100 wouldn't be as sure about. Probably still okay when you see how well it performs, but definitely for the $60 it seems great. I think it tries to compete a bit with the basic GoPro Hero, so the very base model, because it's got the same sort of recording specs, 1080p, 30 FPS, 720p, 60 FPS. So it tries to compete with that. It's a little bit cheaper and it has an LCD, which the Hero doesn't. There's also the CX Gold, which is a higher end model with a higher resolution sensor. Still only 1080p video, but I think it does 60 frames a second at 1080p and does 16 megapixel stills. This only does 5 megapixel stills. And it's got a touchscreen. However, it was about $120 on sale, so I didn't want to spend that much. So there's take a quick look at the box, and we'll take it out, do a tour of it. I'll go and do some test shots on it, and then sort of conclude with how it works. So on the box we can see the specs, so there's the logo on it. Around the back you can see what you get. You get the camera, you get various accessories with it, obviously including the battery, and then here's the specs it claims. So you get 1080p Full HD recording. There you can see it says 30 frames a second. It's got a 2-inch LCD display, built-in Wi-Fi, so you can use the smartphone app to control the camera, to get live view from it, to trigger it, to copy files off. 5 megapixel stills, f2.4 aperture lens, waterproof, live view, that's for the app, and there's the Activeon app. We'll take a look at that later. And nothing else, let's just get inside and see what we get. So after dealing with what appear to be the world's bluntest knives, I finally got into it. So the top just comes off there, and we can see the camera. So it turns out the camera's actually mounted using its proper mount to the case, so there should just be a way to release this. Yep, there's 2 clips there you can press in, and then somehow that should probably release the camera, or I will throw it across the room in the process of trying to get it off of here. Yeah, there you go. So you push these in and it slides back. And there you go, so that comes out. So that's a mounting mechanism for it, which is sort of clip type thing. It's got a sort of standard screw-in thing like the GoPro, so you just screw this out, clip things in. So standard GoPro brackets and handles and all that stuff should fit this fine. And yep, so there is the camera. So we'll take a look at that in a sec. We'll take a look at what accessories we get. So how on earth are you meant to get into this? I have no idea, because there is bits in there. Let's see. Okay, so I figured it out. So that comes off there, and under here we can see the accessories. So we get an instruction manual. Hopefully we won't need it. It can't be that hard to work, surely. You get this bracket, which is a sort of curved bracket, so that's obviously mounting on curved surfaces. Camera again just clips in there. There's the battery for it, which seems nice. So 1100 milliamp hour little battery. Don't know if these are sort of standard to generic action cams, like how easy it is to get a replacement. Should be fine though. I'm not going to be using it that much. There's the USB cable, so it's micro USB rather than mini. Slightly annoying because, well, everything uses micro USB now, but you get the cable anyway, so that's fine. What's this? So you get an instruction manual, a user manual here, so I don't know what this is. So you get a quick start guide, user manual. Don't really need either of those. Thing to install the app. And what's this? Something about prizes or whatever you get with that. And oh, you get some Activeon stickers as well, so you can stick things on stuff. probably if you're doing, extreme sport or whatever people do with these, you can stick that on your sport board or whatever, I don't know. So here's the camera. So it's already in its waterproof housing, which can be removed. So there's a clip here, so you just release that, hinges out, and that opens up like that. Yeah, so it's very similar to a GoPro really. They have sort of copied the design quite a bit, and then the actual camera itself comes out of here. So there's the camera, it's very small, protective film on that. I'll just take off before I try using it and confuse myself as to why it's blurry. There you go. And then on the back there's the screen with, that's fine, nice film to take off. It's got a tripod mount on the bottom, so you can tripod mount it. One complaint, which I mean is the same on the GoPro, is that there's no tripod mount on the external case. You have to get an adapter, which means I can't just shove a tripod on it or use an existing mount if it's waterproof. So I can't use underwater handles or anything. You have to get the right adapter, but I can cope. On the top here you have two buttons, mode and power/record. You can also use these to navigate the menu system. And on the front it has this black plastic. This is actually replaceable. In the shop they actually had different coloured panels you could clip on here. I think they're about $20. I mean, if you want to personalise it, you can. I don't really care. Here on the side you can see the video, the connections. You have USB, HD out. I don't know what that is. Probably some sort of small HDMI interface. And there's a micro SD card slot. And yeah, so it seems fairly nice. So we can just put the battery. Presume that just slots in there. So yeah, it pops out, opens up. Yep, so the battery will go in there. And then I will now charge it up, try it out over the rest of the holiday, probably go to some water parks, go in the pool, stuff like that, and see how I get on with it. I should have a lot of sample clips that'll be a lot more interesting than the usual sample clips of like filming a tree or something, because I'll actually be doing cool stuff with it. So I'll get some sample clips going and we'll see how this thing works. I mean, for the price, for $60 or like, for under £50, I mean, that's really good. That's about the same price as generic cheap ones on eBay. But this is a little bit more branded and a little bit, there is a company behind it. So yeah, seems pretty good. So can't wait to go and try this out. So we'll try it out and see how I get on. So I'm now back from holiday, where I used the camera quite extensively, and I'm extremely happy with it. So what we'll now do is we'll take a look at some sample video I took, and then we'll look around the camera, discuss some of the features of it, look at the interface on it, and generally just sort of discuss how I found it. So, a bit of a disclaimer here. When I filmed the sample clips, the Activeon CX was set to NTSC because it's a US model, which means that it recorded at 30 frames a second. However, my Sony a6000, which I used to film the rest of the video, was set to PAL since it's a UK model. This means that it recorded at 50 frames a second. Therefore I had to use FFmpeg to convert the sample clips to 50 frames a second, which can't be done exactly as 30 is not a multiple of 50. This means that the sample clips you're about to see may not be as smooth as the original files, so bear this in mind. Also remember that YouTube compresses the video, which may further reduce the quality of the sample clips. There are links in the description to the original clips from the Activeon CX uploaded to Vimeo, so I suggest you watch those if you want to see the full quality of the video. So the first video you're going to see is a look around the hotel room. So we're going to look out on the balcony where it's very bright. The camera then gets pointed directly at the sun, which on some cheaper cameras will just sort of cause the foreground to just completely black out because it tries to adjust to the sun. You'll see this camera doesn't do it that badly. We then walk inside and you'll see the camera adjust to the lower light inside, and so that's the first clip that you'll see now. Now the second clip is going down a water slide. So this was outside with lots of fast movement and obviously water getting on the camera. So we'll take a look at that. Next up we have a completely underwater video. This was taken in the swimming pool, took it down quite deep right to the bottom. So I think I've had it up to probably about 6 foot deep. Obviously it is rated for deeper than that, but that's the deepest I had. So we'll take a look at that.
Now finally, to test some low light performance, I have a video from inside the Splash Mountain ride at Disney. So you'll see we go through the ride where it is quite dark, and then finally we go outside and go down the actual drop, which was done at night, so it is completely dark, but you can still sort of see how it works. So you saw a sample video there, and overall I'm actually extremely impressed with it. So in bright light, the picture's great. There's occasional bits of noise. I've noticed, like if you look at the sky in some video, there's a bit of sort of graininess there, but it's really not that bad. And then in low light, it isn't great. It isn't great low light performance, but it's okay. It's certainly serviceable. I wouldn't maybe use it for professional stuff, but the video quality is very good, especially for the price. Like, you can't really fault the video quality. We'll now look at a couple of still photos I took with it. These were just very quickly taken. They weren't really, planned or anything. But you can see they actually came out really well. Obviously it's only 5 megapixels, so the resolution isn't great. But if you just wanted to post them online as is, or edit them into a video or something, they are generally quite good, especially for such a low cost device. So now, here we have the camera. This is the same setup you saw before basically, where it's mounted on this little clip thing. So this was a bit of a strange mounting decision that they give you in the box. So you get this clip, and then you get this self-adhesive pad. And the idea is obviously you attach that to something, and that clips, and the camera basically clips into it. Which, I mean, it does work. It's just not the most useful thing ever, because you're having to stick the camera to something effectively. And it's like single use, you couldn't stick that to multiple things. So what I actually did while I was away, because this wasn't really suitable for what I was doing, I went out and bought another mount. So this is just a cheap GoPro mount. It's designed for a GoPro, and it just adapts it to a normal tripod screw thread. So this was obviously designed for a GoPro, but it does just fit this. So all you do is you just unscrew this thing here, and then pull it out. That just comes off. Then you just take the new mount, slot it on, and then finally just put the screw through it. So it's actually really a bit fiddly, but there you go. So this is actually quite good. So it does fit standard GoPro mounts. So you don't need to worry about trying to get suitable special mounts for it. It will just fit off-the-shelf mounts, which is quite good. And then all I did for the rest of the filming is I had this little mini tripod thing I got in Pound World. I've had it for, I just got it quickly because I saw it. And I screwed that into the bottom, and just sort of had it as like a sort of poor man's sort of handle for it. I didn't want to spend the 20 odd pounds the actual official GoPro handle was, so I bought the cheap thing and just used this. It worked pretty well. And then for going down the rides, I actually took the cord off my sunglasses and actually tied them round it to sort of tie it onto my wrist so I didn't drop it. But yeah, that was my sort of way of mounting it. It actually works surprisingly well, so yeah. It is good, it works with standard mounts, so any sort of GoPro helmet mount, chest mount, floating handle, all that stuff will just fit on this. So here's the camera as well, you can see, so there it is in the waterproof case. Looks quite smart. You've got the 2 buttons on top, which aren't too hard to press, they're a little bit stiff, but they're not too bad. And then to remove it, you just use this little handle, as I showed before, and it opens up and the camera pops out. So here's the camera itself. We'll take a look at the actual user interface on it and see how it works. So obviously on the side there you've got the 2 ports, and then the micro SD card slot. Don't know why the camera's refusing to focus, there we go. So we can now take a look at the interface on the device. So on the top of the camera there's 2 buttons, power/record and mode. Both of these are accessible through the waterproof case as well. If you hold down the rightmost one, the camera will switch on. And then pressing that button will start recording, as you can see there. And you can see while it's recording, there's LEDs all over the camera. There's 4 of them in total that will indicate it's recording. So whatever the angle the camera is at, you'll be able to see. Pressing that again will stop it. The left mode button will then cycle between modes. So as you can see in the top left, it indicates current mode the camera is on. That's currently video. If we switch it to that, that's now photo. So pressing the rightmost button will now take a photo. Pressing the left button again will put it onto burst mode. So pressing that will now take 3 photos in a row. And then there we have self-timer. Now we can enter the main menu on the camera to change more settings. To do that, you hold the button on the left until the menu pops up. And then you can use the left button to cycle through different options. Then use the right button to enter them. So now in here we can see the video settings, where we have the recording mode. This is probably the most interesting thing in the menu. So you can see in here, you have manual, which is what it's on by default, which you just press the button to start and stop recording. Also stop lets you tell it to stop after a certain period of time, so you can say record for a minute and then switch off. Time lapse will let you do time lapse. And then looping, which is quite useful if you wanted to do some sort of surveillance type thing. You can set this to record like up, I think it's got a minute, an option for a minute, 5 minutes, up to 2 hours. And it'll basically record and then it'll start recording over itself. So if you put it on to 2 hours, you could just leave it recording and then you'd always have the last 2 hours of video. So that's almost useful for like a sort of dash cam type thing, I suppose, which is quite clever. I just left it on manual. You've got options of things like resolution. Now if we go back, we can see there's the photo settings. It's just fairly boring stuff about the resolution. Then there's the zoom, because it does have digital zoom. It's got some effects. Nothing super interesting in here. You've just got the field of view, which you can change between super wide, wide, medium and narrow. One issue I found was that on super wide, you could actually see the corner of the waterproof case, just in the very top left corner of the video. I don't know if that's just a slight defect with mine, or maybe the camera is slightly misaligned in the case, but super wide was almost a bit too wide anyway for general use, so I just left it on wide. That's just maybe something to bear in mind, but I mean, wide is absolutely fine. Quality, just like to change between fine, super fine and normal. Upside down is quite useful. It means if the camera is mounted upside down, the video will be recorded the correct way up, so you don't need to edit it afterwards. There's a bunch of other settings for different things. Options to put timestamps on things. You can tint the video to be different colours, all that sort of stuff you'd expect to get that you'd never really use. You can go back out of that. And finally there's just general settings, which has stuff like the mic volume, the speaker. You can turn the LEDs on and off. It's got a TV output, you can change that between PAL and NTSC, format the memory card. You can set the LCD timeout. The LCD will turn itself off after a while, so if you're recording and the screen goes off, don't worry. As long as the LED is still flashing, it is still recording. Brightness, auto power off. And we can see here the firmware is set to version 2.21. When I got this came with version 2.11, and I literally just updated this a few minutes ago. So all the sample video you saw was taken on the previous firmware version. I don't think it makes much of a difference to the quality, but I just updated it, which was very easy to do. All you have to do is go on the Activeon website, download a file, put it on the memory card, and when you turn the camera on, it automatically updates itself, which took a couple of minutes. So that was very easy to do. And we can go back. Oh, and I've started recording. This one thing I found, it is quite easy to accidentally start recording, but yeah, it's not really a big deal. So I suppose the next thing we'll look at is just check the sound quality, because when you put it in the waterproof case, the sound does get quite muffled. So what we'll do is we'll do a quality test, and you'll hear the sound from both when it's not in the waterproof case and when it is in the waterproof case. So we'll start it recording and then we'll do that. So what you're hearing now is the sound recorded by the camera when it's not in the waterproof case. We'll now put it in the waterproof case, which is extremely easy to do, like that. What you're now hearing is the sound from the camera in the waterproof case. So you can probably hear there, the sound gets a little bit more muffled when it's in the waterproof case. Although then again, if you're underwater, you probably don't really need the sound quality. It's just something to bear in mind, because I did film all the stuff in the waterproof case, which meant it sounds a little bit muffled. Although then again, it's not super important. Most stuff was being filmed still on my good A6000 camera. What you're listening to now is sound recorded through the Activeon CX while it's connected to a phone over Wi-Fi. Now in the background, if you listen carefully, you can hear an almost sort of clicking, buzzing noise. That's actually caused by the Wi-Fi chipset in the camera, and it's a bit strange, you do sort of hear it. It's not a massive deal if there's obviously sound, because it does sort of drown it out, but it is still there, so if you listen just now you'll hear it. So yeah, that's the sort of a rough tour of the firmware on the device. So the next thing we'll look at is the Wi-Fi functionality, because that is quite clever, so we'll do that now. So we can now take a look at the Wi-Fi functionality of the camera. Because the camera has Wi-Fi, allowing you to control it from an app on a smartphone. So to do that, all we do is we turn the camera on, and then go to the settings menu as we showed before. Then go to Wi-Fi settings, change it to Wi-Fi app, and the camera will now become a wireless access point. The phone's now connected to the access point, so now we need to open up the Activeon app. And as you can see, it's popped up this thing saying Wi-Fi has no internet access. If you just go into that and say yes, that will stop the phone from disconnecting, because otherwise the phone will disconnect because it doesn't detect Wi-Fi. And now here we can see, there's the thing saying connect Activeon, so we press that. We can see there we're getting a live view from the camera, so there's a little bit latency to it, but it's not too bad, so we can move the camera around and you can sort of see how it all works. That's pretty cool. And then you can remotely trigger it, so from here you can say you want to start and stop recording. So it's now recording video, and that'll stop recording, and then we can press here on the left to switch it. That'll let me see the videos that are on the camera, or files. It's quite slow to do this, but it means you can actually view the files that are stored on the camera, as well as download them off to the phone, which is quite cool. We can go back. We can then click here to switch between photo and video. So that's now set to photo, and doing that will now take photos. There's a fair bit of latency in it, but it's generally not too bad. The one thing I have noticed is the zoom buttons. They take an absolute age to take effect. You press that and it takes a good like 10-15 seconds to actually update the zoom level on the camera. But then again, it is digital zoom, so it's not great anyway. But it's not too bad. Now up here we can change the settings, so there's a settings option. It's the same settings you'd find in the menu on the device. You can change things like the TV output, you can change upside down and things like that. It's just a bit nicer because it's quite easy to update from, you know, being on the camera itself. It's just a bit easier to work with. So yeah, the Android functionality, the app is pretty cool. It's available in the Play Store. There's also one on the iOS App Store. And yes, it does have the app, so it actually seems to work pretty well. So it does have that functionality if you want it. So overall, I'm very impressed with this camera. The video quality is really good for the price. It's a very good price, especially at the $60 rather than $100 that it was normally retailing at. And yeah, there's not really much I can complain about. The only two things I can really think of is the fact it uses micro USB rather than mini. Just because everything else nowadays uses micro USB. So the fact this has mini USB meant I had to carry around another cable. Because my A6000 camera I'm filming with takes micro USB. So I was carrying a cable with that so I could charge it off a power bank. My phone takes USB Type-C, so I had to take another cable for that. And because this takes mini USB rather than micro, I had to carry a third USB cable to charge this, which is just a bit silly. But I think the GoPro takes that. It's obviously just the standard thing that action cameras seem to use these days. The only other sort of real complaint I can think of, and again it's really minor, is just the included mounting options. Because all you really got was this sort of random clip into adhesive type thing, which works, it's just not the most useful. I'd have loved to see it include the sort of tripod mount like that, because that is just so much more useful. And it probably would have cost too much, because once you've got a tripod mount, you've got so many other things you can use. Even if you've got like a cheap selfie stick, you can stick it on that. So the only really thing would be mini USB rather than micro, and a better included mounting option. So really nothing major at all. So yeah, for the $60, it's really, really good. $100, you're starting to get a bit more into territory where you can get the cheap eBay ones that are generally okay, like the SJ4000. But really, realistically, for the price that I paid for this, especially getting it in a store for $60, really impressed. So yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate and subscribe. You can also visit my website at camerongray.me and follow me on Twitter at camerongray1515. Thanks for watching.